So let's talk about how to use the VOR to perform a basic orientation. The only two things you need to be able to do with a VOR at the private pilot level, you got to be able to do a basic orientation, and you need to figure out how to fly to a station. Okay, so if you got yourself lost, you can home in on one of these things. Those are the only two things you have to do. Okay? The first thing we always do when we're using a VOR is tune and identify. So where am I going to get the radio frequency to know where to tune it up in the first place? Where am I going to get that? I'm going to get off the charts, right? So I'm going to look on the map, I'm going to find the appropriate frequency. We're going to do this in a minute. What do I mean by identify? What do you mean by that? Morse code, yep. We're going to listen to the Morse code identifier. So we're going to turn the volume up. We're going to listen to the dots and dashes. You do not need to know Morse code. The Morse code's printed on the chart. You just have to be able to follow the pattern. Okay, so that's important. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the knob, which is more properly called the OBS, and we are going to rotate the OBS, which is going to turn that bearing plate. And we're going to keep doing that, we're going to keep rotating it until the needle finds the center. Okay, till the needle finds the center. And what we want to do is we want to check for a from indication. So we want to center the needle with a from indication. If it centers with a to indication, keep going. 180 degrees from now, it'll center with a from indication. So what you just learned there is, when you select a station and you rotate the OBS, the needle will center at some point, but it can center with either a to indication or a from indication. We want a from indication when we're trying to determine our position. Okay, we want a from indication. We want to know our bearing from the station. That's why we want a from indication. Then we're going to plot that on the chart. Little thing you want to write on the edges of the pages when we say plot it on the chart, you are going to use the compass rose that is printed on the chart around the VOR. You're not going to use your protractor or anything like that. The compass rose is already there. You use that because it's already aligned with magnetic north. And then if I want to pinpoint my position, I use a second VOR station, and then where the two lines cross, that's where I am. Simple as that. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to open your map. All right, so what I want you to do, I want you to look northeast of Toronto, and I want you to find the Simcoe VOR. Here's a hint, look for the compass rose. VOR always has a compass rose. Number one, what is the frequency that you would dial up on your VOR receiver to receive the signal from the Simcoe VOR? 117.35. Now, what is the three-letter identifier that then is expressed in Morse code for the Simcoe VOR? YSO is in fact the identifier for the Simcoe VOR, and that pattern of dots and dashes that appears in there, you basically would just listen to that long enough until you got it, okay? And that's it. So we would listen to that, so that would be the tune and identify part, right? We would go to our VOR receiver, we would dial up 117.35, we'd crank the volume up, we'd listen to the dots and dashes, and it's going to spell YSO in Morse code. And once you've identified it, it is perfectly acceptable to turn the volume down, because when it's identified, okay? Now, let's say, for argument's sake, we rotate the omni-bearing selector and the needle centers with a bearing of 30 degrees and a from indication. What do we do now? Plot it on the chart. So grab your ruler. The VOR is right at the center of the compass rose. and draw a bearing of 30 degrees out from the center. So everybody got that? Okay, now here's the second part of the story. You dial up the Midland VOR. Midland is north of Simcoe. So don't blurt the answer out, but if you're going to use the Midland VOR, what frequency are you going to dial up? 112.8. And the identifier is YEE. It's a Y. They're all Y's or V's. Okay, so you dial that up, tune and identify, rotate the OBS until the needle centers with a from reading, and this time when it does, it centers on 120. So where those lines cross, that's where you are. Okay, and that'd be really bad if you intended to be in Windsor, but maybe not so bad if you were trying to go to Midland.